why you came all the way up here.
There's nothing left.
Please. Welcome back, fellow movie fans, to Reel, your home for an ever-evolving discussion of film in all of its forms. I'm the Mayor.
And I'm KP. Thanks for joining us as we jump into another new release video.
Yes.
We actually saw 2 films this week. We are so excited. Cinema is back.
Finally, back in theaters, baby.
Woo! Jonesing, baby, jonesing. I can feel it, I'm ready. So we definitely got our fill of 2 very different types of films, but the big releases of this weekend, which were A Quiet Place Part 2 and Disney's Cruella. So we're gonna jump right into A Quiet Place, the sequel starring Emily Blunt and directed by John Krasinski.
I was nervous coming into this movie because I really liked The Quiet Place. I felt like it was the lightning in a bottle for a horror film. The sound design, the setup for a movie, a beautiful 1.5 hour long film. Just very easy, very delicious little horror film. So when I heard they were making a sequel, KP, I was like, here we go. Because every horror film has to get milked in some way, shape, or form, right? But when I heard that John was coming back to direct, Emily Blunt wanted to come back, I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And so when we watched it just the other day, it was a wonderful, wonderful little thing. It meets right about the same for me on the first one. And while the mysticism of that first one, the big wow, the time is not there, because it's a sequel, it was still a fantastic time.
I think you encapsulated that point really well. Lightning in a bottle. That first film is magical. As much as people want to nitpick about the inconsistencies of the plot points being given, sound, the monsters, the continuity of story plot points, living on a farm versus living near a waterfall, we get it, guys. You like to care too much about movies. But in the end, it built so well. So to do a sequel seemed like dangerous territory. And I think even with a new filmmaker like John Krasinski, even he was aware of that. He was actually not interested in coming back to do a sequel, but from what I understand, the studio came to him like, why don't you pitch us what you would do for a sequel? Because it's written by John Krasinski. I think both Emily Blunt and Krasinski have both stated that the movie is not so much a sequel as a continuation of that same storyline. It picks up right where the last one left off and just continues that storyline of the Abbott family's exploration into finding safety and a future and a home in this nightmarescape of alien monsters, and it's so good. The whole Last of Us reference is very prominent in this film. You hear that a lot, so if you've played that game, you know exactly what we're talking about in terms of the style of story. It is that a lot, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
They do such a good job with that kind of narrative. The plot pacing that sets up the events that happen in the film, it's very expertly executed and set up in such a way that doesn't feel rushed, cheap, or less impactful from the first film.
And that was my worry, is that because at any given moment I could be watching that movie and be like, oh, here it is. Here's the cash grab feeling. We're not going to get to spoiler territories, but the film, we get to see the day one, and that scene is expertly crafted. You're holding your breath the whole time. Already through the whole movie arc is how quiet the movie is, but just the intensity of how this all kicked off and then cutting back to modern day and kicking the story off was a perfect 1-2 punch to get the thrills right into it. This film, yet again, just delivers on all the fronts of just absolute excitement, that nervous tension. I had to leave to go to the bathroom at one point, and I came back, and the theater was so silent I could hear a pin drop, and I'm just like slowly trying to creep back to my seat while also being so nervous about what's happening on screen. I was just happy to have that thrill back in the theater again, to be surrounded by people holding their breath, nervous to see what happens next. A lot of the horror in this film is fantastic. There's some cheap jump scares thrown in there, but that's to be expected with a lot of thrillers and horror. But the story is yet again perfectly paced for how long the runtime is. And the new additions were something I was worried about, because I love John and Emily, and the kid actors are all fantastic. But the addition to Cillian Murphy, an actor I think who never gets enough love,
Never.
absolutely delivers in this. He's wonderful, so good.
Yeah, as much as film appreciators and fans can see movies and obviously recognize Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow in the Batman Dark Knight trilogy from Christopher Nolan, as well as, the Waybackers that like 28 Days Later, Breakfast on Pluto. This movie very much reminds us how much we love Cillian Murphy, because it's very much a co-starring lead kind of jaunt into the second film. It's not just, we need a male character because we lost the other dad character. We need a new man in the movie, while we've got these wonderfully strong women, with Emily Blunt's mom and then the daughter, wonderfully performed by Millicent Simmons. What I found really unique is how I like how the characters have sometimes flipped their narrative expectations that I had from the first film. You get this sense of who the characters are in the first film, and then the movie is brave enough to kind of start shuffling the priorities of the characters and like what their weaknesses and what their strengths are, who you kind of side with. You know, in the first movie, for me personally, I found it really easy to not really side with the daughter. I found her really selfish, and as much as there is the plot point, you know, like there is a lot of weight to why there is that disconnect and that friction between her and her father. It just constantly seems like a teenage drama of just like, can you get over yourself for a little bit? You know, like it drove me crazy. So to see this movie and watch her shift out of that stereotype that I felt in the first film into a different, you know, wearing a different hat in the movie was really cool, because I didn't have that judgment of her. I didn't have that assumption of her. And then other characters changed as well. And it was refreshing. It doesn't sit in the same seats as it did previously. It's brave enough to continue the heart of where the characters are moving, but doesn't feel like it needs to sit in stereotypes to be like, well, this character's always going to be annoying, this character's always going to be brave. And that's wonderful for Krasinski as both the writer of this installment as well as the director to take that time to set things up properly and to really give us more to chew on.
For horror films, you always expect the sequel to be kind of cut and paste almost of the first one. Like, well, people like this, so we just got to do it again and milk it for the money. Or we got to overexpand the world building.
That's what they want.
Yeah. Because this movie could have ended, you know, or started or ended with people like in a space station somewhere, you know, with flamethrowers and guns fighting aliens. But we don't get that. We just have a story that moves to the next logical point, and everything that happens in this film has that next logical step. So throughout the whole film, I was just, like I said, I'm like, please don't pull the typical horror nonsense. But it just kept with it through the whole time. Every character, every moment of the film has weight to it, has great delivery to it. Yeah, I'm happy to be back in theater and this be the first film to come back. We've been waiting for it for so long, and for it to deliver and be such a fantastic and fun movie to watch, especially with a group of friends, was almost brought a tear to my eye. You know, I'm just happy to be back, you know?
Yeah, and coming off of, like we talked about, our first movie in theaters was Mortal Kombat, which is just fun. This movie represents the essential viewing of the theater.
Yes.
This movie very much reinforces that. But yeah, the experience of sitting with your friends and holding your breath, or feeling the emptiness of a theater, you know, the high ceilings, and just feeling that kind of exposure like the characters do in the story, and just being like, don't go. You're holding your breath with them. That feeling is unparalleled when it comes to a theater versus sitting in your living room or sitting in front of a small computer. It just doesn't work as well. And so it's good to be back. We've got a long way to go, but you know, if you've read the reports, the numbers are looking good. A Quiet Place is on course for the opening weekend to have hit about 57, just under $60 million, which is on par with the first film. And when you take into account that theaters are at half capacity, that's a really good sign for people being willing to like take that brave risk to be like, we're vaccinated, let's get out there, let's get back to normal, and let's embrace that. And it was wonderful to see. Yeah, especially with you. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. And I'm just happy for John Krasinski too. Good for him.
The people that are left, they're not the kind of people worth saving.
With one movie down, we had another big movie come out this weekend, a Disney delivering, of course, just another hard-hitting film for us to talk about. Cruella, a film from the minute I heard its announcement, I've been scared, I've been nervous, I know what Disney's game's about. This is a movie I've been telling KP about this nonstop, that when you have a character like Cruella, who in the original 101 Dalmatians is about skinning puppies to make a coat, how are you going to justify that character? People already are very sensitive to animals being hurt and abused. And so for Cruella, there's almost like no way I could possibly see this character having a justified backstory or even a solo movie. She's a perfect 2D villain for a fun classic Disney film. But KP, tell us about, well, how are you feeling?
It is entertaining. The film is stylized. It's directed by Craig Gillespie, who's known for directing I, Tonya. So there's no question that when you're watching it, you're definitely having a good time. It's like listening to a song that it's not your thing, but you still find yourself bobbing your head and tapping your foot to. There's something that catches you. That's watching movies. But with that being said, you know, when you're gonna make your villain be sympathetic by just rewriting their narrative, it's rewriting history. And we talked about that just before we started this video. We are so comfortable with the idea of hitting justice on the head right away when we see it. That's wrong, let's jump on it. And then we've become so comfortable with the double standards that inhabits, which is, but we like this character, or this character embodies something that we choose to allow it to embrace being, a female lead character, especially played by someone as wonderful and talented as Emma Stone, who just, knocks it out of the park for like what she's going for. It's a wonderful, exaggerated character, and it's embodied really well. But it's just trying to create sympathy with a character that it just creates a divide for the audience. There are some people that really do like this movie. We found ourselves entertained by the film, but again, we see the game that Disney plays. It's IP, it's intellectual property that Disney knows they have, and they can mine that because of memorability, because of the iconography that people associate with 101 Dalmatians, and the iconic villainy that is Cruella de Vil, and just to turn it on its head, to make it fun, stylized. Let's root for the bad guy. After watching Joker and all these things, they've seen what profit comes from that, and it's weird. It's complicated. Let's jump into that.
Yeah, that's the hard part for me watching this movie, because the whole time watching KP, I find myself being, I'm laughing, I'm enjoying the ride, but in the back of my mind the whole time it's like, you guys, this is a woman that's gonna skin puppies. Like it just keeps coming back full circle for the whole 2 hour and 15-minute runtime. And when we first get into the Dalmatians, how they're first introduced in this film, is so ridiculous, in my opinion, but the story kind of carries it off well anyway.
It does.
I'm like, look at you, Disney. This actually feels like a refreshing film, because their other remakes are just pretty bland for the most part, especially the further they've gone on. Dumbo, Aladdin, Mulan are just films that I've basically forgotten are here until I just have to look up the other remakes. Like they're that forgettable, but Cruella has a lot to it, and the whole time I'm like, wow, Disney, if this was maybe based on Cruella's mom or a completely original character, I think I would really enjoy this film, because there's a lot of good things going on there. But you just see that Disney is harking back to nostalgia. It's like, you guys like Cruella because she was like the terrible lady. Everyone likes 101 Dalmatians. You love dogs. So we're just going to keep, chipping away at that. But we also love anti-heroes, and we can justify anybody. And so it's like, Disney, we know, because every movie you make makes $1 billion or close to it. So they can just keep doing this. And Maleficent was a good first start. It was a fine film. Now they have a sequel. And for Cruella, by the time the film ends and how they try to connect it to 101 Dalmatians actually doesn't connect properly at all.
Nope. And that's the problem. Now that you brought up Maleficent, that's the issue. It's just you're rewriting history. They not only build the narrative that she had trauma, a history with the king, betrayal, even to the extent of sexual assault and abuse. Those are important points. So the movie was brave to talk about it, but you completely rewrite the narrative to make her truly the hero, not just like a cool hero, but she's like the mother to Sleeping Beauty in a lot, the adoptive mother. That's how far Disney goes with that. And with this one, it's no different. It's taking that character, rewriting the narrative, not just to make her someone you can understand, you can be sympathetic to, but almost rewriting the whole origin of the original film that the character is based from. That's what you're setting up, basically. And that's because that's what they do with Maleficent, by making the father the villain. And with this one, by creating an artificial, nothing from the original film, creating a new villain for Cruella to be battling against, and then to rewrite her narrative to be someone that we can care about, is really commendably original and cool, but it doesn't work when you're dealing with original stuff that you already have set up for decades for the audience to understand. So for us, it's a judgment and it's a criticism, not just of Disney, but also of people that like this movie that much. Again, it's okay to like it. We enjoyed the film, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the movie is still manipulating things to service a purpose, to rewrite a narrative. It's like people that watch the Spider-Man movies, and then when they rehash and recast the character, all of a sudden it becomes this thing to constantly like it just because it's Spider-Man. So you've got this push and pull, but at least with Sony and Spider-Man, there are differentials between those characters. With this one, Disney makes no claim that they're trying to, don't worry about 101 Dalmatians, we're wiping the slate clean and we're telling a new story. They're saying that it's an origin, and that just doesn't land well. It's okay to like the movie, but to be tricked into liking it for the deeper idea that it's telling something that connects to the original film, you fooling yourself. You are fooling yourself into thinking that it has anything deeper than that. And again, to be clear, this has nothing to do with the film itself.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people online say like, well, I love Emma Stone, I love this movie, and that's great, and you can do that. Emma Thompson and Emma Stone both deliver fantastic performances. They really have fun. The costume designs by Jenny Bevins is like Oscar worthy. The movie's beautiful, guys.
Yes.
It's truly a sight to see just on costume design alone. Makeup's also fantastic. And all the supporting characters, one of my favorite side actors, Paul Walter Hausen, is fantastic as one of the bumbling Horace, who's one of the sidekicks to Cruella de Vil. There's great things here, there truly is, but you just know at the end of the day, it's just Disney trying to be like, we're moving on. You remember some things of 101 Dalmatians, but how much do you really? So the fact that they're trying to rewrite history and trying to fit in maybe a new one, I don't know if that's going to try, or a sequel, it's completely possible, because if this movie makes money, they'll try it. And that's just Disney's game. And it's that grossness within inside me, because I like Disney a lot. What they've done for Marvel, some stuff with Star Wars, some stuff. A lot of the animated films have been fantastic from Disney. I love Disney, but at the end of the day, they're a corporation. They need to make money, and they know what we fall for as a generation. Nostalgia works.
Yep.
And we have all seen 101 Dalmatians, whether it be the cartoon or the live-action one, you know, because Glenn Close is amazing as well as Cruella.
You rock, queen.
Yeah. But I'm worried at the end of the day, I'm going to rewatch 101 Dalmatians and animated films that I really enjoy and just be like, Cruella's going to leave that bad taste in my mouth, even when there's so much good there.
To see Emma versus Emma was just such a blast to watch that. There's the tension and the pacing of their characters, taking that time. The movie is a little long, being at 2 hours and like 15 minutes. You know, you can just easily just back that up to just about 2 hours, maybe even a little less. But that time they take to build those characters, it does work. You know, that's that hard thing I have to balance. I wish it was shorter, but what's in there is really good. Yeah. So, but I felt the time.
Yeah. There's heart there, even with how long it is. And Disney loves to abuse how much they can fit onto a soundtrack.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
I'm sorry. It is a good movie, and I love boisterous, big soundtracks. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy, has kind of brought people back to having these big, fully stacked soundtracks. Cruella almost feels that at no point in this movie there's not a popular song playing. They literally transition from piece to piece. And a lot of these songs I love, but you can feel yet again the nostalgic, like, hey, the 70s, people like these songs and know them, let's just keep going. Every scene is roping you into another song, and I'm like, I was getting nauseous just with my ears. I'm like, I get it. I'm like, can we just have a score? Nicholas Brittle does the score. He's one of my favorite composers right now. Does the TV show Succession. If Beale Street Can Talk, Moonlight, this man's wonderful, and he should have had more of the score there, but instead we just get a lot of Beatles songs, a lot of 70s songs. And it's not even the original Beatles songs, they're covers.
It rings false. It does. That's really what it comes down to.
It's the mouse, and the mouse knows what makes $1, and it comes down to, it's a science, and they have it down perfectly. But like I said, we've digested so much of it, I'm gonna puke it back up at some point.
Absolutely.
And with the lineup of remakes and, you know, spin-offs and stuff, it's gonna keep coming as long as it keeps making money.
Yep.
But at least for Cruella, I'm happy to put this one on the higher end of the pedestal of this, like KP's been mentioning. It actually is a really enjoyable time, and it's a wonderful film, and I'm happy that it wasn't a slog, because of getting in Quiet Place, I don't want to completely, we're back to movies. I don't want to go back to movies.
I hate everything that's happening right now.
Disney.
I'm Cruella.
I don't know. There's not much else to say about it. Yeah, it's quite a ride. You know, again, in the end, please watch these movies for yourself. Find out for yourself if you like them or not. We can say that, you know, no matter what, going back to cinemas, watching these movies and experiencing them, it's a wonderful feeling. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really hope you guys take the time to catch these films. Go back to the theater. Take the precautions you need to. Wear your masks. Follow the procedures from Cinema Safe and the many theaters that are around. No matter where you are, in California, New York, around the world, please be gracious to people. Be gracious to the employees. If they say to wear a mask, do it, guys. Go to the theater. Go watch it. Even when it might not be 100% the way that you want to see a movie, take that chance. You guys won't regret it. It's going to be a blast. We can attest to it. So many of the other people that watch films also say, despite the restrictions, it's still wonderful to get back to a theater, so please do it. Please go ahead and comment down below once you guys have watched the films. Let us know what you guys think. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Give us your take, you know, try not to spoil. These movies are still fresh for people. Go ahead, follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We also are big additives to the app called Letterboxd. Please go ahead and find us. We write more reviews that we don't get over on these videos as much as we can, so please check us out there. Other than that, that'll do it.
I think we're good. Just happy to be back, and take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.